Hey guys, so our internet connection is very slow and we're not able to do Periscope the way that we wanted to do. And also, we can't stream
either
from the
way
camps.
we wanted to do.
And even when we're back in the hotel in the office, it's too slow to be able to stream. So what we'll do is we'll do a few short videos and hopefully show you a few pictures trying to make the best of technology. It's not the greatest, but just so you can have an idea of what the camps are like. So today we went to 3 different camps. The first camp was in Langsa, and that camp was for Rohingya males. So Rahim, I think you've got a little picture to show.
I can show you some pictures. We'll be sharing all of these on social media soon as well, on the Restless Beings pages. But just so you get to see it now, this was the first camp that we visited today.
And as you can see, there's like stagnant water between each section of houses.
All of that, and these are just temporary housing, so these are just makeshift sort of huts.
There's probably rows of 10 or 12 huts, and in each hut there's like 4 people sleeping in there. Very, very basic, doesn't have much there. The overall feeling from that camp was, you know, the Rohingya were complaining a little bit about the conditions in which they were in. They initially wanted to move to Malaysia, and that's what they'd kind of paid the smugglers and the traffickers for. You know, obviously the horror stories of spending weeks and months on the boat were there, and we'll do a proper write-up about that.
This is a little clip of, we basically
did like a series
several
of interviews.
yeah.
So just play the clip maybe.
So this is a little bit, I'm just going to play a few seconds. So Mabra's just in the corner.
And we actually managed to bump into some, you know, kind of a friendly NGO that we know called Lonely Orphans. And they're doing, I wouldn't say similar work, but they're doing work in the camps as well. From the meetings that we've been having with our partner, and also from the conversations that we've had with the Rohingya that are there does seem to be like a lot of people who have come along and made lots of promises and taken money shots, but not really delivered as a result.
So there's like a sense of hopelessness in the camps, just a genuine sort of, I don't know, feeling of nothing will really change. And
again, we'll go into more detail when we write our articles. In the same area of that camp, of the Rohingya camp, probably 150, 200 meters away, there's a camp of about 80 or so Bangladeshis as well, Bangladeshi migrants. There were about 600 migrants in that area, in that particular camp, but they've been repatriated back to Bangladesh. So we met the kind of, you know, the 78 or so Bangladeshi migrants there as well. It's a really sad situation. They're just waiting to go back to their country. There's again a lot of helplessness and you know, not knowing what's going on, not knowing when they're going back. IOM, the International Organization of Migration, have basically been moving them or repatriating them, but without any notice or anything like that.
This is the kind of space that they're living in at the moment, so living accommodations. You can see Mabra right here speaking to some of the gentlemen that live, the refugees in that space.
It's an old paper factory.
So it has a warehouse feeling. It is literally a big tin building.
And it's one room, which is literally where all 80 people stay. It's a bit depressing, if I'm honest with you. In that camp, RB already has provided, so this is some of the people that we were talking with. And RB has also, you know, donated, through your donations, obviously, the water tanks. So we've been providing water there for the last 40 days or so. I think, have we got any pictures of that?
Yeah, so this is the water tank. So this is the water tank, and you can see the Restless Beings logo up there. This is what we've donated. So the money that you've given
has provided fresh drinking water,
amongst many other things, but this is one of the major things.
For 40 days so far.
So this is just myself next to the water tank. We're just getting...
This is a fresh tank, and, you know, just so the camp dwellers know where it is, that we put stickers on there just so they're aware of it. And from there we went to another camp. So basically, remember in the first camp that we went to, it was just Rohingya men. There was another problem because when that camp initially started in May, it was the men and women were in one camp. So families, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, children, etc. were all in one camp. But for some unknown reason, IOM, state government, all decided that they wanted to shift the women to a separate camp. The separate camp is probably a 15-minute drive, probably about 3 or 4 miles away. And literally the women and the men, so like husbands and wives, are not able to meet with each other.
This is
brothers and sisters
one of the
are not.
rooms. So this is their sort of living accommodation. They have 3 large rooms like this. And you can see, obviously, there's sort of floor mats. And
There's really
the women and children sleep,
no privacy
eat,
whatsoever.
sort of live in these conditions. It's just a room, like a large classroom, and it looks pretty big and clean, but you can just imagine if you have 90 women in there and children, what the conditions and the smell in that room. And
I mean, the stench in that particular camp was unbearable, really, wasn't it?
yeah,
The garbage is collected, I think, once every 4 days or 5 days, and it's such a minor amount of money that it would take to get the garbage to be collected every day. If the garbage is collected every day, psychological impact obviously reduces, because who wants to stay in a disgusting smelling place? The hygiene in terms of diseases like waterborne diseases, sanitation diseases will disappear very quickly. And also a sense of belonging would be there, because the women generally actually there didn't seem to be in a very mentally distressed place.
I mean, it was quite strange.
There was a lot of sisterhood.
There was a really strong sense of sisterhood, and the wonderful thing thing was, and probably one of the most humbling things, was when we asked them what do they need. They were sort of initially, for the first sort of 5-6 times, they were like, no, we don't actually need anything. We've got everything. We just want to be sort of either repatriated, or we want to
be able to see our husbands and brothers.
Yeah,
really.
who are in the other camp. And the other thing is, they were sort of saying, well, we don't really care if we stay in Indonesia or we get moved to Malaysia or Thailand or
back to Burma,
as long as we're together with our families and as long as we have the freedom to move around and trade and actually have a normal life. That was sort of their fundamental
dignity,
need,
basically,
and live with that, sort of live in that dignified manner. And these are again fundamental, human rights. That everyone should be able to exercise.
But I mean,
these are the things that they're being stripped of.
Basic things like being able to dispose of the garbage, providing better sanitary conditions for the women, are so cheap and easy to achieve. And it's just frustrating because some of the authorities that are charged to do some of this work at the moment are simply, truth be told, just not living up to the work that they're supposed to be doing. And that's something that we will continue to lobby, but also at the same time, maybe that we can, with your support, try and fix, at least in the short term anyway.
As we were leaving the women and children's camp, we said to them, look, if you really, like, right now, what is it that you don't have? And they were like, we want some more fruit, and, we've got children in the camp, and it would be really good for them to have sort of good, healthy fruit, and we need some hair oil, we just need some coconut oil. It was as simple as that. These were their requests.
And like the scalps were completely dry, like skin was coming off because they haven't oiled them for probably
something that was regular to them within their community.
And again, very cheap to achieve here.
Yeah, so these are the kind of things that basic communities, although our focus as an organisation is always to work with the most marginalised communities, and it's never really about relief and aid. In these kind of situations, it's wonderful to be able to give some of the most basic basic amenities, which for them allows them to feel like
and we're going to do that straight away, like
life.
Tomorrow or the day after when we go and visit them again. We can just give them the oil. I mean, it's so, like I said, it's relatively cheap.
So here's a picture of some of the women that we interviewed in the female camp.
There you go. Yeah, put that.
So this is me with some of the women. She was great because she spent a lot of time kind of explaining how they lived and their needs and also kind of how they see their lives and where they want to go.
Anyway, from there, because I'm just cautious of the time, people will probably stop watching. From there, we went to another camp in East Aceh. And East Aceh was, for us, was it was the least enjoyable of the camps to be in, because it just showed us exactly what's wrong with the continuation of NGOs and not actually going to the root of a problem. So here basically we saw it was the biggest of the camps. The men and women were together, the Rohingya and the Bangladeshis were together, but the entire campsite was kind of populated from cover to cover with like banners of like hundreds of different organizations that have been trying to raise money for the Rohingya. And it was to the point where the Rohingya and the Bangladeshis there, the migrants and refugees, didn't even want to talk because they've had so many visits from so many different people, so many empty promises, and so much kind of disappointment that they just simply didn't want to communicate anymore. Its condition was awful, to be honest with you. The ceiling, there's one building where the women are staying, and it's also doubled up as some sort of kind of basic education center. The ceiling was literally caved in. There's nowhere for them to hang their clothes. So what they do is they wash clothes, they put it up at the ceiling, and it creates very, very humid conditions inside as well. There is a watering hole there. The watering hole isn't for drinking water, but it's for cleaning and washing. But the general conditions of that place are awful. Now, all of these camps that we visited, they're all going to be relocated into two separate large camps, one in Langsa and one in East Aceh. So we were talking with, our partners on the ground and kind of discussing budgets and stuff. An entire village for the Rohingya that will house up to 5,000 will cost, I think we said £250,000.
£250,000.
Which in reality is nothing because, and one of the biggest frustrations,
hundreds
5,000.
Was it 5,000? The biggest
one of the biggest frustrations of the Rohingya and of our partners on the ground is that so much money has been raised, but such little has come through. And in what name has it been raised, and it's just not showing. And for a relatively,
I think that's something. That's what we kind of, every time we'd visit the camps, we'd go back in the car and sort of, I'd ask my brother, look, how do you feel about this? Or we'd both just go absolutely quiet, and it was just because a sense of kind of,
it's a disbelief almost.
Yeah, a complete disbelief, and also a sort of, I can't believe so much money is being raised, and
yet,
so much is happening, and
yet look at the
conditions in which that they're living in.
Because the camp, the last camp in East Aceh, it looks like it was probably done. The entire thing was probably done with £5,000.
It was depressing. It looked like how the camps, the images of the camps that were shown sort of years ago, when these sort of issues were coming up to the surface in Burma, and sort of or
like what you'd imagine camps. A camp to be like without any assistance. Like, if refugees just kind of literally built their own tents and managed. That's what it looks like. It doesn't look like there's been tons of money poured in, that there's been hundreds of organizations that have raised money for the Rohingya. It doesn't look like that. And we know for a fact that millions were raised, especially during, for example, Ramadan, right?
It's a cause for concern, I guess, as British citizens, and as sort of, within the charity sector ourselves, it's a huge cause for concern. And I guess we've taken it upon ourselves as a responsibility to ensure that all those that are working like ourselves, within the region, are actually accountable like ourselves, and also we're all delivering together, and the money that we're raising and the awareness that we're raising actually has a real